I've been to a lot of music festivals. A lot. I've done over 50 four-day festivals, and at this point, I'm basically a festival veteran. I know the rules, I know what to pack, I know how to survive, and I know which porta potty is going to become a war crime by day 3. Now, I've taken younger women, I've taken women my age, and I've taken a few older women, but this last festival, ladies and gentlemen, I took an elderly woman to Bonnaroo. Let that sink in. And not only did I take an elderly woman to a 4-day raging music festival, she had never been to one. Not once. Not ever. So now, I'm not just bringing an elderly woman. I'm bringing a fucking elderly Wookiee. And there are 3 things you should never bring to a 4-day music festival. Number 1 is obviously an alcoholic. Number 2 is somebody that's never been to a music festival before. And number 3 is someone who ignores every goddamn thing you tell them. Now, most people hear that list and think, Joe, that's 3 different people. No, sir. I somehow found the Voltron of bad festival decisions. I brought one person who combined all 3. I took an elderly woman whose blood type is beatbox positive. I took a woman that doesn't need a walker. She just follows the sound of the beer tent. I took this to a 4-day music festival. Now, before anybody judges me, she wasn't just elderly. She was an elderly first-timer, making her an old-ass Wookiee. I mean, imagine taking someone whose idea of a wild weekend is finding a coupon for a buffet and dropping them into a sea of 50,000 raging people dressed like glitter-covered space pirates. What kind of dumbass does this? I wasn't bringing a date, I was transporting a liability. But alas, this is what my date was. All 3 things to avoid at a large 4-day music festival, all rolled up into one glorious beatbox-scented disaster. This woman loved alcohol so much I'm convinced if vampires bit her, they'd fail a sobriety test. I'm her tattoo artist. I've seen blood come out of this woman that smelled like fruit punch and bad decisions. Before the festival, I did try to prepare her. I said, listen, drinks inside the show are $20 each. Bring your own alcohol and drink at camp. She said, I'm on a fixed income. I can't afford $20 drinks. I said, exactly. Apparently, she heard, spend your retirement fund by Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. My advice had aged worse than milk in the Tennessee sun. By day 4, she had spent enough money on beatbox to personally fund the next flavor release. I think if you cut her finger, she'd bleed fruit punch. The woman spent her monthly income chasing a buzz. At that point, you're not drinking alcohol. You're making installment payments. Now, another thing I told her was don't wander around people who are all fired up. Because at music festivals, when people take Molly, ecstasy, shrooms, and DMT, they become the friendliest people on earth. And by friendly, I mean horny as fucking hell. They love everybody. They love music. They love trees. They love strangers. Hell, they'll hug a trash can and tell it about their childhood. And for some reason, my date looked at all these sweaty 20-something-year-old guys half naked, rolling their fucking faces off and thought, finally, my dating pool. Now I'm watching these young dudes with their shirts off, sweat flying everywhere, pupils the size of dinner plates, and I'm convinced that these boys are not looking for love. They're just trying to explain the meaning of the fucking universe to a glow stick. Meanwhile, Granny Bonnaroo's over there giving him Barry White energy. The music schedule meant nothing to her. The festival map only had 2 landmarks: cold beer, more cold beer. Now, this younger crowd was doing dubstep dances. Granny Bonnaroo was doing what looked like a combination of aerobics, directing air traffic, and swatting invisible bees. And she didn't understand festival fashion at all. And she just thought half the crowd had forgotten to finish getting dressed. Every morning she'd wake up and ask, "What happened last night?" And every morning I'd answer, "I'm still trying to figure that out." And day 4 is when things really went sideways. We're at the last show. I'm tired. My legs hurt. I've been walking for 4 days and I just want peace. I just want to watch this band, this last band from second row, but every 30 seconds she's shaking me. "Joe, Joe." "What?" And with a slow, slurry, liver in her pain voice, she would just say things like, "Look at that guy's hat." Cool. 30 seconds later, "Hey, hey, hey." "What?" "I think I know that song." You know, you're at the concert. Of course you know the song. Every time it was something that absolutely did not require interrupting a concert. By Thursday afternoon, Granny had converted her entire monthly check into a pyramid of empty beatbox containers that could be seen from space. Most people bring a budget to the festival. Granny brought a financial disaster with a wristband. The bank called her and asked if her card had been stolen. Granny just drunkenly said, "Nope, I'm just making terrible decisions efficiently." Day 1, her attitude was like, "I've got plenty of money." Day 2, she's like, "I'm doing great." And by day 3, she was like, "Can I pay for that beatbox with festival wisdom?" And this is when I started telling people she was my emotional support grandmother. And I'm the same age. This is also the moment I became aware that God had totally abandoned me. A young blonde is dancing near the front, right in front of us. A true festival hottie. And my date is perversely staring at this beauty in a bikini dance just a few feet away from her. And I'm aware of her sexual fluidity and openness. I just watch this girl dance. A girl young enough to be her granddaughter. And then it happened. My date leans between the 2 dudes on the front row and starts filming this girl's ass with her phone. Not from 10 feet away. No. It was like she was filming an ant colony wildlife documentary. Her phone was just a few inches away from this festival dancer's ass, and Granny was bent over between 2 dudes with her arm extended outright towards this girl's ass. The dudes in the front row are trying to dance, and when they see Granny filming, they both looked at her and went, "Damn, Granny perv on the move." The dancer eventually sees this and slowly moves away as if creeped out by an old lady filming her butt. Granny followed her ass like a nature photographer tracking a rare bird. I heard the people beside me say, "Is that old perv lady filming that girl's ass?" The other dude was like, "I think so, but from this angle, she's basically conducting a medical examination." 2 girls behind me said, "Is she making a video?" Judging by the footage, she's making a very detailed documentary about 1 square foot of festival girls' asses. When she came back and stood up and looked at me, and seeing that I had seen her do this, she just drunkenly laughed and said, "Oops, I got caught. Deal with it." Granny Bonnaroo doesn't understand personal space when holding a camera. Her photography style is called extreme accidental proximity. Meanwhile, I was horrified. I thought, "Ma'am, you are looking less like a festival attendee and more like a detective working a very weird case." I didn't know whether to apologize or pretend I didn't know her. I considered faking my own death. And I'm just standing there thinking, Jesus Christ, I brought the world's oldest frat boy. At that point, I stopped asking what could happen next because the universe clearly took that as a challenge. The walk back to camp took forever. Not because of the distance, because Granny had entered herself into a premium talking package. She talked the entire walk about everything. Music, food, the moon, a squirrel she'd seen on Thursday. And by the time we got back to camp, I knew more about her life than her fucking therapist. Eventually we get back to camp and I'm exhausted. Now our camp is full of younger festival people dancing and partying. The younger crowd is absolutely launched into orbit on Molly. And all of these much, much younger people are partially dressed. Some were nearly naked and just raging with hormones and drugs. And yes, drug cocktails of all flavors. And I'm the only one who's totally sober. The only one. Music's blasting. People are dancing. Everybody's having a great time. I'm just trying to edit some drone footage I'd taken earlier in the back corner beside my RV. That's all I wanted. A dark corner. Just peace. And Granny immediately starts inserting herself into every conversation. Nobody was safe. She's requesting songs. She's giving advice. She's interrupting stories. She's auditioning for the mayor of the campground. I kept saying, please sit down. Please relax. Please leave these people alone. She only knew 2 of them. The other 12 or so she had just met 5 minutes before when we got back to camp. But did she listen to my advice? Absolutely not. She disappears into the RV, and a few minutes later she comes back out. There were 4 young dudes dancing aggressively. They were all shirtless. They all looked like a troupe of exotic dancers. And they were dancing like their lives depended on it. Granny Bonnaroo walks in, took one look and said, "Looks like y'all need supervision." The guys thought they owned the dance floor until Granny jumped right into the middle and started dancing like she was in a 1974 family reunion. 4 festival dudes formed a dance circle. Granny Bonnaroo saw an empty spot and treated it like a reserved parking space. The young dudes were doing complicated dance moves. Granny responded with 2 finger guns and a shoulder shimmy that hadn't been seen since the Carter administration. One guy asked, "Who invited her?" Granny screams at him, "The music did." Big, energetic dance floor energy. Meanwhile, Granny steps right in the middle of them and starts dancing like she's performing in a cigarette smoke-filled roadside bar in 1987. The music is aggressive dubstep. The guys are hitting every beat. Boom, boom, boom. And Granny looks like she's slow dancing with Barry White. Arm in the air, slowly going down, slowly coming up like a drunk stripper with big hair. The beat is going boom, 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 and she's over there going, "Oh yeah." Like she's waiting on some motherfucker to bring her a fucking wine cooler. The young girl started chanting, "Go Granny, go Granny, go Granny." And somehow it got worse because it was at that moment that I felt 2 emotions at the same time. Pity and shame. Pity because she was spending money she didn't have, chasing attention from boys young enough to they could call her grandmother. And shame because she was my date. Do you know what kind of emotional confusion that is? I wasn't sure whether to laugh, cry, or update my will. Now, a good man would have intervened. A good man would have walked over and said, "Okay, Grandma, Time for your medication. Let's get you off to bed. A good man would have preserved her dignity. But apparently, I'm not a good man. Why do I say that? Because I pulled out my phone and started recording. And not for the internet, not for social media, for me. For rainy days. For when life gets difficult and I need to remember that somewhere out there is footage of Granny Bonnaroo trying to seduce a dubstep rhythm she could not physically locate. Now, I have no plans to share this awkward video with anyone, really. Yes, it's funny as hell, but I did this for my own entertainment and would never publish it. As long as Granny behaves. That's when I realized the true lesson. Never, ever bring a Wookiee to a music festival. Never bring a hardcore alcoholic. And absolutely never bring an elderly woman who's both. Because if you combine all three, you don't just get a date. You get a fucking side quest. I wasn't witnessing a disaster. I was witnessing history. You know, some people spend years looking for Bigfoot. I found him. And I took him to fucking Bonnaroo. I want to make a prediction that archaeologists in the future studying the Bonnaroo grounds will discover an ancient monument made entirely of empty beatbox containers. Carbon dating will confirm it, built by Granny Bonnaroo sometime around Sunday afternoon. Granny Bonnaroo shows up to the festival with a wagon full of beatboxes, like she's preparing for a medieval siege, except the only thing she's conquering is sobriety. Granny's dance moves are sponsored by Beatbox and Poor Decisions. Granny's motto is, if I can still find the beer tent, I'm not lost. Now, do not attempt to synchronize dance styles unless experienced in both disco and bass-based confusion. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the story of Granny Bonnaroo. Proof of age is just a number. Wisdom is optional. And if you spend enough money on beatboxes, even your poor decisions can become festival legends. Peace!